Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had ordered Lord Nityananda to stay in Bengal, but nevertheless, because of ecstatic love, Lord Nityananda also went to see him. Indeed, it is a symptom of real affection that one breaks the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not caring for the regulative principles to associate with him. During the Rasa dance, Krishna asked all the gopis to return home, but the gopis neglected his order and stayed there for his association. If one carries out Krishna's order, Krishna is certainly pleased, but if one sometimes breaks his order due to ecstatic love, that gives him millions of times greater happiness. Vasudev Dutt, Murari Gupta, Gangadas Sriman Shain, Srimad Pandit, Kinchana Krishnadas, Murari Gupta, Garuda Pandit, Buddhimanta Khan, Sanjaya Purushottam, Bhagavan Pandit, Suklambara Brahmachari, Sringananda Brahmachari and many others joined together to go to Jagannath Puri. It would be impossible to mention the names of them all. The inhabitants of Kalinagram and Kanda also came and joined. Shivananda Shain took the leadership and thus started taking care of them all. Raghava Pandit came with bags full of food prepared very nicely by his sister Damayanti. Damayanti made varieties of unparalleled food just suitable for Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to eat. The Lord ate it continually for 1 year. These are the names of some of the pickles and condiments in the bags of Raghava Pandit. Amra Kasandi, Ada Kasandi, Jala Kasandi, Nembu Ada, Amra Kroli, Amsi, Ama Kanda, Tailamra and Ama Shata. With great attention, Damayanti also made dried bitter vegetables into a powder. Do not neglect shukta because it is a bitter preparation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu derived more happiness from eating this shukta than from drinking Panchamrita, a preparation of milk, sugar, ghee, honey and curd. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he extracts the purpose from everything. He accepted Damayanti's affection for him, and therefore he derived great pleasure even from the dried bitter leaves of shukta and from kashandi, a sour condiment. Because of her natural love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Damayanti considered the Lord an ordinary human being. Therefore, she thought that he would become sick by overeating, and there would be mucus within his abdomen. Purport. Because of pure love, the devotees of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, Vrajabhumi, loved Krishna as an ordinary human being like them. Yet although they considered Krishna one of them, their love for Krishna knew no bounds. Similarly, because of extreme love, devotees like Raghava Pandit and his sister Damayanti thought of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a human being, but their love for him was boundless. By overeating, an ordinary human being becomes prone to a disease called amla pitta, which is a product of indigestion characterized by acidity of the stomach. Damayanti thought that such a condition would afflict Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of sincere affection, she thought that eating this shukta would cure the Lord's disease. Considering these affectionate thoughts of Damayanti, the Lord was very pleased. A dear lover strung a garland and placed it on the shoulder of his beloved in the presence of her co-wives. She had raised breasts and was very beautiful. Yet although the garland was tainted with mud, she did not reject it, for its value lay not in material things but in love. Purport. This is a verse from the Kirata Juniya by Bharavi. Damayanti powdered coriander and anise seeds, cooked them with sugar and made them into small sweetmeats that were shaped like small balls. She made balls of sweetmeats with dried ginger to remove mucus caused by too much bile. She put all these preparations separately into small cloth bags. She made 100 varieties of condiments and pickles. She also made koli shunti, koli churna, koli kanda, and many other preparations. How many should I name? She made many sweetmeats shaped like balls. Some were made with powdered coconut, and others looked as white as the water of the Ganges. In this way, she made many varieties of long-lasting sugar confections. She made long-lasting cheese, many varieties of sweetmeats with milk and cream, and many other varied preparations such as Amrita Kapura. She made flat rice from fine, unboiled shali paddy and filled a large bag made of new cloth. She made some of the flat rice into puffed rice, fried it in ghee, cooked it in sugar juice, mixed in some camphor, and rolled it into balls. She powdered fried grains of fine rice, moistened the powder with ghee, and cooked it in a solution of sugar. Then she added camphor, black pepper, cloves, cardamom, and other spices, and rolled it into balls that were very palatable and aromatic. She took parched rice from paddy, fried it in ghee, cooked it in a sugar solution, mixed in some camphor, and thus made a preparation called ukta or mudki. Another variety of sweet was made with fused peas that were powdered, fried in ghee, and then cooked in sugar juice. Camphor was mixed in, and then the sweet was rolled into a ball. I could not mention the names of all these wonderful eatables, even in a lifetime. Damayanti made hundreds and thousands of varieties. Damayanti made all these preparations following the order of her brother Raghava Pandit. Both of them had unlimited affection for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and were advanced in devotional service. Damayanti took earth from the Ganges, dried it, powdered it, strained it through a fine cloth, mixed in aromatic ingredients, and rolled it into small balls. The condiments and similar items were put into thin earthen pots, and everything else was put into small cloth bags. From small bags, Damayanti made bags that were twice as large. Then, with great attention, she filled all the large ones with the small ones. She then wrapped and sealed each and every bag with great attention. The bags were carried by 3 bearers, one after another. Thus, I have briefly described the bags that have become known as Raghavera Jali. The superintendent for all those bags was Makaradvaj Kara, who kept them with great attention like his very life. So the pastime goes on. So very ecstatic pastimes. These devotees very purely devoted to serving Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and empowered by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to do immense amount of devotional service. As it was described here, Damayanti was cooking hundreds and thousands of preparations. And so many amazing recipes. And this is just as Krishnadas Kaviraj is describing, this is just a glimpse. He's just giving a glimpse of this amazing pastime. So, and it describes in the previous, in the Adi-lila, one of the verses was stating that I shall describe the contents of the bag of Raghava Pandit later in this book. Hearing this narration, devotees generally cry and tears glide down from their eyes. So we can understand if we're not getting tears gliding down from our eyes, then we've got steel-framed hearts. So speaking for myself. So obviously, we're getting some taste from hearing these pastimes, but we just can't imagine the devotees who are purely advanced in Krishna consciousness, how ecstatic they become by hearing these transcendental pastimes. So these pastimes are not ordinary pastimes like the pastimes of Krishna in Krishna Lila. They're transcendental pastimes from the spiritual world. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has his pastimes going on in Goloka Vrindavan, just like Lord Krishna. So these are eternal pastimes, and all these associates, they are eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are coming. They come with him when he comes to this world, just as Lord Krishna's associates come with him from Goloka Vrindavan when he comes to this world. And as we understand, Lord Chaitanya, he's a very rare incarnation of the Lord. Sometimes it's said that he's the most merciful incarnation of the Lord. Well, he is the most merciful personality, but it's not that he's an incarnation of Krishna. He is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, non-different from Krishna. It says, Radhe Krishna, Sri Krishna Caitanya, Radhe Krishna Nahi Anya. That Radha Krishna, Sri Krishna Caitanya, Mahaprabhu is non-different from Radha and Krishna. He's a combination of Radha and Krishna. And he's come in this most merciful, munificent incarnation to freely bestow pure love for God upon all the living entities in this darkened age of Kali. Previously, all the incarnations of Krishna, they killed the demons and they protected the devotees. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he doesn't kill the demons, because in Kali Yuga everyone's a demon. Kalo Sudra Sambhava, everyone's born less than a Sudra. So he comes and kills their demoniac spirit by his displaying his sweet pastimes and spreading the Yuga Dham, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the wide chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is basically, you will find that in the Caitanya Caritamrita, that all the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, they're basically made up of chanting, kirtan, dancing and ecstasy, and taking prasadam. So when the devotees get a little tired from chanting and dancing, they take prasad. They get more energy to chant and dance more, and then they take more prasad. And it's just all through the whole, this transcendental literature, these pastimes are going on. Sometimes there's a little bit of philosophy and preaching, and saving the fallen souls of Kali Yuga, like the Jagais and Madhais. So many different amazing pastimes, preaching to the non-devotees and saving these fallen souls. So this is it's very important to hear. Our whole basis of Krishna consciousness is based on this hearing and chanting. These are the two most important limbs of devotional service. Hearing this philosophy, hearing these pastimes, and chanting and repeating and preaching this philosophy to others. And as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Kama Chame Divyam Evam Yuveti Takvata Chakvadeham Puna Janma Nayati Mam Eti Sochana. One who understands this transcendental nature of my birth and activities does not, upon leaving this material body, take birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So this is the whole process, hearing about Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth and their uncommon transcendental activities and pastimes, is very purifying, very elevating, and can bring us to the transcendental platform of being always in remembrance of Krishna, and can completely purify the heart from all unwanted things, lust, greed, anger, envy, the desire for sense gratification. This process is very, very powerful. So even if we don't fully understand these transcendental pastimes, still the benefit is there. The example is given, like when you have some disease, the doctor will give you a medicine. You may not have full faith in the doctor, or you may not have faith in the medicine, but if you take the medicine prescribed by an authorized doctor, it will cure your disease. What more to speak if you have full faith in the doctor and faith in the medicine? How much more that medicine will act upon curing your disease. So similarly, we're in a disease condition of forgetfulness, taking this body to be ourself. We're thinking, I'm a young man, I'm an old man, I'm a woman, I'm black or white, Australian, Chinese, Hindu, Muslim, so many designations, and we're thinking this is our home in this material world. We're thinking that material happiness is the real goal of life. But these are all so many misconceptions of life. So similarly, if we take this medicine, the prasadam is considered the diet for the diseased soul, and chanting of Hare Krishna and hearing Krishna's pastimes, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, is considered the medicine. So just as a bona fide doctor, he not only gives his patient suitable medicine, but he restricts his diet, puts him on a certain diet to cure his disease. So because of our disease condition of forgetfulness of Krishna, we've been given this diet of prasadam and the medicine of the holy name and the pastimes of the Lord. So we can see by hearing these wonderful pastimes, all of us become somewhat ecstatic hearing these transcendental descriptions. And we could all relate with prasadam pastimes, right? It's our favourite service practically. Speaking for myself. So basically, there was one story where Prabhupada was talking with a lot of his leaders in the early days, and he was temple presidents, GBC, sannyasis. He was asking them, all of them one by one, so what brought you to Krishna consciousness? And they said, prasadam, the prasadam that you gave us, Prabhupada. And no, they all said the same thing. Prabhupada said, yes, this is my secret weapon, which I'm attracting all of you and keeping you all fixed in Krishna consciousness. If we didn't have all these wonderful varieties of prasadam, then maybe not so many of us would stick around. It would be a lot harder to stay in Krishna consciousness. So we can see these wonderful descriptions. Maybe some of the cooks should try these wonderful descriptions. Maybe the next cookbook that Garuda puts out, he can put some of these recipes in there. There was one story I remember, Indradyumna Maharaj told that he was preaching in France, and he would travel with the devotees on travelling Sankirtan doing books and Harinam. Sometimes they would go to people's houses, or they would go to different churches to try and find a place to stay. So they came to this church, and the church members said, yeah, you can stay here. And so the devotees were doing their whole morning program in the church there, and they were going out every day on Sankirtan. But the head brother of the church, he wasn't allowing any of the brothers to come and join in the program. But there was one brother, he was sneaking in. Somehow he was sneaking in. And he would come for the class and the kirtan. He would very much enjoy the class and kirtan. And then the devotees at the end, they had all this amazing prasad. And they said, so, try some of this wonderful cooking. This is the mercy of the Lord. And the priest was saying, no, I'm on a strict diet. I only eat an apple and a bowl of soup twice a day. So then they couldn't get him to take prasadam. But then Indradyumna Swami, he went back to Paris one time. It was Lord Balaram's appearance day. And after the festival, he came back to where all the devotees were staying in another city. And he brought all this Mahaprasad from Lord Balaram's feast. There was gulab jamans and sweet rice and so many cakes and puris and samosas and Varuni juice, of course. And then they had the same morning program, and this brother came in for the program, and then at the end of the program they said, so now you should try some. This is the Indradyumna Maharaj said, this is the special mercy from Radha Parish Ishvara, from Lord Balaram's transcendental feast, and you should try some of this. And the priest again, he was saying no, and then they said, come on, try some, all these amazing sweets. And he said, okay, lock the door. So they locked the door. And then they said, try some of this halava, sweet rice, puris, pakoras, burfis, sandesh. And one by one he was taking more and more and more. And he was becoming so intoxicated. And he was saying, give me more of this and that. And then came a knocking on the door. And the devotees were saying, be quiet. And the brother was saying, no, open the door, invite them in. So they opened the door, and the head brother from the church and all the other brothers, they came in, and they got very upset at that brother and said, no, you're not meant to be doing this. You have to come with us. You have to perform so many Hail Marys as penance. And they took him away, and the head brother said to Indradyumna Maharaj and the devotees, you've got 2 hours to pack up and get out of here. So the devotees had to leave that place, and they were thinking after they left, they lost contact with this devotee. But then sometime after, Indradyumna Swami said that brother, who was like a Krishna Bhakta, he started writing to Maharaj, and they were writing letters back and forth, and this way they kept touch for some time. I'm not sure what happened to him later, but yeah, that was an amazing story. And all of us can testify that we've had so many wonderful experiences with prasadam feasts. And devotees are encouraged to eat lots of prasadam. It's very purifying, very ecstatic. And Prabhupada said you should eat so much prasadam that you waddle like a duck, especially for newcomers. Some of us may be still eating like that. It's hard to restrict prasadam. So we're in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes right now. This is part of his Sankirtan pastimes, this ISKCON movement, and is predicted to go for the next 10,000 years. So the same pastimes that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates were performing here are going on in this ISKCON movement all around the world. Taking prasadam, chanting in ecstasy, dancing in ecstasy, spreading the Sankirtan movement, going out and giving the holy names, giving Srila Prabhupada's books, and giving out prasadam. In this way we can attract so many people also to Krishna consciousness. These are the most powerful weapons we have in spreading Krishna consciousness, the holy names, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Srila Prabhupada's books, prasadam, like this. So, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's not only came himself with all his associates from Goloka Vrindavan, but he also brought the Yugadam, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Goloka Premadana Hari Nama Sankirtana, Rati Na Janmilo Kinataya, that this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is directly transported from the spiritual world, from Goloka Vrindavan. But we're so unfortunate we do not have a taste for this chanting. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if I actually had love of Godhead, I couldn't bear to live in this material world anymore. So he was just speaking out of humility. Of course he had, he came in the mood of a pure devotee to experience pure love for Krishna. Of course he had, pure love for God. But we can understand that we have a long way to go. We have so much contamination in the heart that is blocking our pure love for Krishna, but still this process of Krishna consciousness is very, very powerful, and if we stick to this process year after year, then it has a very powerful effect, and we can experience that gradually we're becoming purified, gradually we're becoming more and more attracted to the holy name, to the pastimes of Krishna. We're becoming less attracted to the material attractions of this world. So many forms of sense gratification, the form of wealth or women or fame or name or adoration or material possessions. These are so many stumbling blocks on the path of Krishna consciousness. And basically it all begins with the attraction to the opposite sex. Pumsastriya mitoni bhava metam. The Bhagavatam states that the attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence, the basic principle in which we're conditioned in these material bodies. On the basis of this misconception which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes more and more attracted and attached to one's body, to one's wife and children and friends and relatives, possessions, house, home, etc. So this is the hard knot of material attachment. But by Krishna consciousness we can gradually cut this knot of material attachment, simply by this simple process of hearing and chanting the holy name and pastimes of the Lord and his associates. So at the moment we're like in this well of material existence, just like in India there's so many wells and they're very much covered, and you may be walking in the field and you may fall into one of these wells, you don't even see it. And it's very difficult to get out of a well if you fall in. You may call out but no one can hear you. You may scream but no one can hear you. So it's like we're falling into this well of ignorance, and without the help of the spiritual master and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give us this rope of Krishna consciousness, then it's very difficult to extricate oneself from this ignorance of material existence. So the spiritual master is like a kind person who comes and offers the rope to someone in the well. And you grab onto that rope to get yourself out. But it's not that it's easy to get out of this well of material existence, even with the help of the spiritual master and his associates and the process of Krishna consciousness. There's so many stumbling blocks on the way, so many difficulties, so many attractions of the material world still tempting us. Just like when you're pulling yourself up on the rope to get out of the well, there may be rats gnawing at the rope, or there may be some bees hovering at the top to bite you, or maybe a tiger waiting at the top. So there's so many tests and trials and tribulations on the path of Krishna consciousness. But still, if we stick to this process and follow this process strictly and diligently and with great enthusiasm and determination, then practically no attractions of this material world can tempt us to go back out into Maya. And we should always remember our past existence and material existence, that there was no happiness in material life. None of us were happy. There was no pleasure in pursuing sense gratification or wealth, or just working hard for money and enjoying so many different pleasures. We should remember that we were always in anxiety, always stressed, always morose, and that we should not fall again into the illusions of material pleasures and happiness. And by sticking to Krishna consciousness, then we can be fixed constantly, 24 hours a day. And this is the business of Krishna consciousness, that 24 hours a day we should be trying to see how we can be Krishna conscious in every minute, every hour, every day of our lives, 24/7. By always practicing, like Srila Prabhupada said, a devotee, he chants at least 16 rounds on his beads and unlimited rounds off his beads. So we should practice chanting 16 rounds at least on our beads, and whether we chant more rounds on our beads and the extra time throughout our day, or we do so many other varieties of services, whether it's cooking or cleaning or doing farm work or preaching Krishna consciousness or taking prasadam or performing kirtan, so many varieties or reading these ecstatic pastimes. There's so many varieties of ways in which Srila Prabhupada has given us in which we can be 24 hours a day engaged in Krishna conscious activities, in always remembering Krishna. These are the most important two rules and regulations. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. All the other rules and regulations are hinged on these two most important rules. So we have to see how we can always remember Krishna. Just like some devotees, like Vaisheshika Prabhu, he has this program of this Chad program, chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day. So is anyone in this habit of reading a chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day? Personally, I've been trying it for the last few years. It's very, very enlivening, very purifying, very strengthening to one's Krishna consciousness. Reading a chapter of the Sanskrit verses and translations, and reading some purports every day. Prabhupada said that his only criticism was that devotees don't read his books enough. So and Prabhupada said you should know these books back to front like a lawyer knows his law books. So we have to make time to read these transcendental literatures, not only engage in so many activities of devotional service, and this is a service. This is one of our services that we have to do every day, just like we chant our rounds. So we should read these most important books, Caitanya, Caritamrita, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar of Devotion. These are like the most powerful books that Srila Prabhupada has given us. And of course, preach Krishna consciousness. So we have to, every day we have this morning program. Prabhupada said this is like the sandwich program, the morning and evening programs where we come to the temple, engage in hearing and chanting, studying this philosophy and association of devotees so that we can build up our strength and fight with Maya. Whether fight with Maya means just fighting with our own minds, or fight with Maya in the form of going out and preaching Krishna consciousness. Just like all of us who have gone out preaching Krishna consciousness, it's not easy to go out in the street and face the conditioned souls who are very averse to Krishna consciousness, especially distributing these books. But if we have strength from our own sadhana, our own morning program, evening program, and when we go out and face the conditioned souls, then we can attract people to Krishna consciousness. We can attract people to take Srila Prabhupada's books, take to hearing the holy name, taking prasadam. Just like, years ago I used to go to the shows in Sydney and Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth. We used to go and distribute books to all these big shows where there were hundreds of thousands of people every day. And we would just be very bold, and we would walk in with a trolley in past the entrance gate, 3 or 4 boxes piled up on a trolley, and we would hide the books somewhere, and all day we'd be dodging the security guards. But it was such a wonderful opportunity to give out a few hundred books in a day, and people had lots of money at those places. People have lots of money, and they're all mostly sudras, so they can't control their money. So if you can attract them with something like a very attractive transcendental item like one of Srila Prabhupada's books, then people will take it. And wonderful opportunities that we have. We should take advantages of these different events. Like I heard in America now, the devotees are going to events like the Trump rallies. There's these Donald Trump, he's having all these rallies, and the devotees go there, and there's so many thousands of people, and the devotees are distributing so many thousands of books there. There was one devotee recently, Parameshwara. He's one of the big book distributors in America, and he just, even in these times of COVID and lockdown, he recently he did his record of books in one day, 700 books in one day, 700 big books in one day. So we should not think that there's so many hindrances to preaching Krishna consciousness. There's COVID, there's a war, there's pandemic, there's lockdowns. People are still eager, and even more eager in these times, to take to Krishna consciousness, as many of us experience. And when we go out, they're more and more ripe as Kali Yuga goes on. The more Kali Yuga degrades, people have become more and more receptive to wanting some positive alternative. Prabhupada said this is the positive alternative. Ramai Swami used to have that on his bus, right? The positive Krishna consciousness, the positive alternative. So this is the real positive alternative to the suffering of this material world, is that we can make a solution to all the problems of life. Prabhupada said the real problems of life are birth, death, old age and disease. Repeated birth and death. The living entity is nityabhata, practically eternally conditioned in this material world. But by Krishna consciousness, in one short lifetime, Prabhupada said you can become Krishna conscious in one lifetime and go back home, back to Godhead. Even Prabhupada said you can become Krishna conscious in a moment. Well, you may not become Krishna conscious after millions of lifetimes. It's only a matter of accepting and understanding the fact that by applying this process you can become Krishna conscious immediately and be Krishna conscious 24 hours a day for the rest of your life. At the end of this life, either go back to the spiritual world or take birth in a family of Vaishnavas, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashtapajayate, that a person who falls away from Krishna consciousness after short practice of yoga takes birth in a family of aristocratic people or rich mercantile people, brahmanas. But a person who sticks to Krishna consciousness his whole life and is not completely successful, he takes birth in a family of Vaishnavas. Prabhupada says in the purport, such was the good fortune of myself and my spiritual master. We took birth in a family of Vaishnavas. So Krishna consciousness, there's no loss or diminution. So this is a wonderful process Srila Prabhupada has given us, that we have this opportunity to 24 hours a day engage in so many varieties of ecstatic devotional service to Krishna, and ecstatically trying to preach this Krishna consciousness. Just like here on this farm, there's hundreds of people coming all the time, receptive people coming to this farm who are interested to hear about this positive alternative of Krishna consciousness. So even we don't have to leave the farm. Sometimes you can preach to so many people on the farm and encourage them to become devotees. But also it's very nice when we have the opportunity to go out and give Krishna consciousness to others. I'll finish with one last Sankirtan story. Once I was in Melbourne, I was with Dhruva Prabhu, who's now on the island, what's it called? He's off the coast, Norfolk Island. So he was distributing books for years as a brahmachari. We were in Melbourne distributing books, and we decided we'd go to Geelong, and he went down earlier than me, and I was a bit late getting there, and I was thinking, it's late in the day, what will I do now? It's already the afternoon, it's very hard to get into Sankirtan when you start so late. And I'd been trying distributing books to a few bookshops. They take books and then they display them on their bookshelves and people buy them. And so I went to this bookshop. I thought, I'll go to the bookshop. There's just a chance they might take some books. And the man there, he was like so enlivened by all of Srila Prabhupada's books that he bought a whole collection of like every single book I had, like 2 books of each. Gitas, all the Bhagavatam, Nectar Devotion, Caitanya, Caritamrita, and all the Korma's cookbooks and all the kids' books, CDs. It was like $2,000 worth of books. So there's many ways in which we can give out Srila Prabhupada's books and spread Krishna consciousness and give people the opportunity to get this transcendental knowledge, to get to hear about these transcendental pastimes in the process of devotional service. Just like at the front of the farm, now you have this little box where you can put so many books. People come and they put their books there and they take devotional books away with them. Or devotees put books in libraries. I went, and there's in America the devotees have the Motel Gita program where they put books in the motel rooms in the drawers. I did that once also in the Gold Coast, going to all the motels along the main highways, and the owners, they put the Bhagavad Gitas, like the Bibles, in all the drawers, and they find that people even take these they take the Bhagavad Gitas, or like they take the Bibles, they take them from the motels, and the devotees have to replenish the supply in the motels because people steal them, they take them home. So that's if you steal one of Srila Prabhupada's books, then watch out. Before you know it, you'll become a devotee. There's many stories like that also. So we'll finish there. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Additional pastimes? I heard it was from a book table. Has anyone heard? I'm pretty sure it was at a university. Not sure where, but it was a book table. And piles high of books. Yeah, that's right. They call it the Shapta Rishis, 7 books at a time. So, and he's a very empowered devotee also. He's been doing books for like decades. Still brahmachari after like 30 years or so. But it'd be interesting to hear more how he did that, because that's like, for most of us, it's like quite inconceivable. The microphone, I think. Yeah. Okay.
His name is Parmeshwar Das, and he's posting videos now on Facebook distribution table, like he speeds it up over his whole day. He puts the camera on the side, and then on Facebook he speeds it up so you can see him distributing like hundreds of books.
Wow.
It's wonderful confidence. There is a description, I think a little bit later on, not sure exactly where we start to fire up in the corner of the room and set down over in the place to leader or...
Is that in the same chapter?
It's I don't know where it is.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe if you want to read the continuation of that pastime, you can read later after the class. Yes, These pastimes are out of this world. They're super ecstatic and unlimited. It's amazing how such, one devotee like this is cooking hundreds and thousands of preparations, and this is just a small glimpse of what was going on, small description. So there's no amount of books could describe such pastimes. There's no end to these transcendental pastimes.
Also, the majority of the preparations you read out were in Bengali.
Yeah.
Something translated for us. Notice that?
Yeah, sure.
They're all long-lasting preparations, but they lasted for a whole year. She used to make them every year. Stacks of people for us to be interested and see what they were worth.
Koli Sunti, Koli Churna, etc. Koli Bonda, yeah. Anyone know Bengali? Your husband, yeah, we get your husband, he can translate for us. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Finish that. Sri Caitanya Caritamrita ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Gaur Premanandi.